Y'all be seated. Hey, Jay, is this yours? Well, good evening. Hope you are doing well today. Doing all right, staying warm. Everybody enjoy the snow? Would you like the snow now? Snow day. Hey, how do you think? I mean, y'all basically had 2 weeks off, right? I mean, y'all basically missed all of February for school, right? How lucky can you be with that? My name is Chris Rainey. If you haven't met me before, if I haven't met you, if you're a guest with us, my name is Chris Rainey, the youth pastor. Hey, Josh, how you doing? It's great that you're here. I'd love to meet you if I've not met you before. Thank you for being here as well. I know there's a lot of places you could be, whether you're a guest, whether you attend here at church normally. I know there's a lot of places you could be, so thank you for being here. Thank you, Jason and Mo, for doing the announcements and all. They do a great job. And a couple things I want to hit on real quick with them is one, Winter Jam. March 15th, a couple weeks from now, 2 weeks from now. If you want to go, it's $10 at the door. You just need to let me know by next Wednesday the 11th, so we can make sure we have all the riding situations taken care of. So make sure you let me know that. The Disciple Now, March 20th through 22nd, 3 weeks from now. You need to sign up for this because it promises to be one of the best weekends of the year. A lot of games and lots of food. You're staying at people's houses with your friends, and a lot of great things happening there. You're not sleeping a whole lot, and you're messing around playing games. But there's great worship times. There's great small group Bible studies. A lot of great things happening this weekend. I promise you won't want to miss it. And I know some of you may have games and things like that. You may have games or practices or whatever. Hey, I get that, I understand that. Don't let that stop you from coming though. From taking part in at least some of it. I played baseball, and we always had Disciple Now in the spring, and we never failed. At least had one game, whether it was on a Friday or Saturday. I always had something. But you know what? I made it a point to be there every time because I knew how great a weekend it was going to be. Even just to experience part of it, I knew it was going to be a great weekend. So don't miss out. It's $35 to sign up for that, and you can sign up online or you can sign up with me, and I'll be sending more information out to your parents and things like that. So anyways, we started a few weeks ago. We started a series called Friends. We've been talking about what it means to have friends, to be a good friend, and things like that. We said to attract good friends, you have to be a good friend. This is one of the very first things. If you want good friends, then you need to be a good friend yourself. So we talk about what's that look like. Are you a friendship killer or are you a friendship grower? What do you have in your life that is you may look at it and say, man, I don't always keep friends that well. Or maybe say, yeah, I'm doing okay with keeping friends. We talk about some of that. Talk about a lot of different things. And Foster came in last week and kind of did a great job. Kind of took a break from the Friends series, and Foster did a fantastic job. I'm thankful for him stepping in and speaking there. But tonight I want to talk about handling disagreements. How do you handle conflict amongst friends? That's probably, if there's one thing we know in teenage life, man, is drama, right? Is there drama? Yeah. It's almost like a morning service in here, those amens. Drama. There's a lot of conflict a lot of times. You're figuring stuff out. Let's look at a few pictures though. Let's just kind of help prove a point. Tell me what you see when you see these pictures. Let's see the first one. Is that a frog or a horse? What do you see? Who sees a frog?
I can't see. You're in the way.
I'm in the way, excuse me. I'm sorry. We got a frog? We have a horse.
I see a frog and a horse.
You see the frog and the horse now. When you first looked at it, who saw the frog? Who saw the horse first? The horse's mane. Face right there. Or the frog. It's like a lemon rain. What's the next picture? Tell me what you see.
I see a
pelican. We got a rabbit. A duck. A pelican and a rabbit. Who saw a rabbit first? Rabbit first? Yeah, we got the rabbit here, the ears. Who saw a duck first? We got the bill, the eyes. Once again, we have this Vanna White type thing. Weatherman type thing going on there. No, even though she's like 100. What's the next one? Is this okay? What do you see here?
Jesus.
Jesus. We see a face. We see a garden.
I see a tree.
Who saw like a garden landscape type thing first? Who saw a face? Well, you got the eye right here. You got like,
Looks like a face.
yeah, this outlines the face. So you got the eye right here, eyebrows, hair. Here's the biggest conflict of all we've had over the last week. Let's see this next
Oh my
week.
gosh, it's gonna be white. It's white gold.
Who sees white and gold? Who sees white and gold? Who sees white and gold? We're all wrong. It's black and blue. So we got black, blue. This picture. All right, take the picture off before we have it right. Hey, that picture. Hey, right here. That picture like almost broke up a ton of friendships on Thursday night. Like everybody was like freaking out. What is this color of the dress? And no joke, I see black and blue because that's the right answer. I see black and blue. So it means I'm depressed. Hey, listen, don't be putting your psych stuff on me. It means I'm depressed. Are you depressed with me? Okay, you're depressed with me. Okay. I saw black and blue, and I was reading through this article, and they had like a picture halfway through the article, and it went to white and gold, and I was like, okay, they got to be playing a trick, right? On me. And so I kept scrolling, and then I went back up, and the picture was blue and black, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was freaking out because I saw both of them, and that's crazy. Anybody seen both? You seen black and blue and white? I've seen both. It's crazy. It's crazy how it works. But hey, this just proves a point though that we're not always going to agree on everything. Yeah, you probably had friends when you saw that picture, you saw the dress, you saw the animals and all that stuff. One of you was saying it's black and blue, one of you was saying it's white and gold, one said it's a duck, one said it's a rabbit. Yeah, we don't always agree on everything, right? And hey, you know what? Disagreement and conflict is okay. Hear me say that. Disagreement, conflict, that's okay. That's not the problem. The problem, we're all humans. We all have our own opinions. We're all going to make mistakes and mess up. It's not that conflict is the problem. It's not that disagreements are the problem. It's how we handle them. And that's the problem. That's really where we get in trouble, is how we handle these things. We're going to disagree. Even the nicest of people are going to disagree. Even the greatest of Christians are going to disagree on stuff. And let me just paraphrase the story. I had the verses, but don't worry about the verses, Grover. Paul, everybody knows Paul in the New Testament, right? Wrote like most of the New Testament, planted all these churches over in Asia and in parts of Europe and in the Middle East and all that. Planted tons of churches, right? Well, him and his sidekick Barnabas, great guys, huge guys in the faith. You guys, like, man, these guys had a sharp disagreement, and these guys had a conflict. They're going on a trip, and Barnabas wanted to take his cousin Mark with him, and Paul was like, hold up, brother. No, we ain't taking Mark with us. Because Mark had, on a previous trip, Mark had left him. He just up and left on the trip. And so Paul, we're removing that, like, no, we're not taking him. And Barnabas is like, no, let's take him. We need to take him on this trip. And it says that the disagreement became so bad that they just eventually separated. Their friendship didn't stop, but they eventually just had to give each other space. So notice one thing. We're always going to have disagreements. We're always going to have disagreements. And two, sometimes when you have disagreements, it's okay to give space. That doesn't mean you're giving up on the friendship. That doesn't mean that things are over. But there is some wisdom in giving each other space. Even if you're not having a conflict, there's wisdom. There's wisdom in giving space. Here's what Proverbs says about giving space to one another. Proverbs 27, I believe it is, or 25. Do we have that one up? 25? Maybe not. We don't have it. Oh, no. Well, that's not good. Proverbs 25, 17. Talk amongst yourselves. There you go. Proverbs 25:17 says this. It says, "Let your foot be seldom in your neighbor's house, lest he have his fill with you and hate you." The New Living Translation says, "Don't be sure not to wear out your welcome unless they hate you for being there." Have you ever had that friend where you've stayed over, you became best buddies on a trip or at school or something, and you hung out for like 3 weeks straight, nonstop. You're at each other's house, you're texting each other, you're staying the night and all this stuff, and like after like a month or however long, you're just like, man, I'm just sick of that person. You know, it just kind of gets, at some point, you kind of get a little bit tired of them. You need kind of a break, right? It doesn't mean that you hate them any less or you hate them or anything like that. It just means, not hate them any less. It doesn't mean that you love them any less or that you hate them. But there's wisdom in giving space. But it says seldom. It says let your foot, let your presence be seldom. And what that means is to make it precious, to make it valuable. In other words, make the time that you have with your friends, make it valuable by not wearing each other out. By not just make sure give each other space. Don't suffocate one another. Especially when it comes to disagreements. Hey, it's okay to give space. That's making value. That's making your friendship valuable. That's understanding that your friendship is precious by saying, okay, I know we need space right now. We're having this disagreement. I know I need to go clear my head for a moment, and you may need to go do the same. But it's okay to give space. One way to handle a disagreement is for a moment, take some space, take some time from one another. Understand that, hey, we don't always have to spend 24/7 together. We don't always, especially come to a disagreement, because you may say something that you regret saying. You may do something that you regret doing. So there's wisdom in giving space to one another and allowing yourself just to kind of cool down, allowing yourself just to kind of clear your head and think through some different things. So take time to take space. That's okay. That's okay to give each other space from time to time. But you don't need to leave the conflict. You don't need to leave it just sitting there. Yeah, when I say take space, I'm not saying make it a permanent, like, okay, we're just going to ignore what happened, we're going to ignore what was said or done or whatever. No, take time to kind of cool down, to reflect, to kind of clear your mind. But then you got to come back to the problem. And you got to communicate. You got to deal with it. Because if you let bitterness and anger and jealousy build up, then it's just going to make the whole situation worse. And James helps us in understanding, okay, how do we handle conflict? How do we handle these disagreements? And it's great. And it's a great idea for any kind of conversation you have when dealing with people, but particularly when it comes to dealing with anger and conflict and disagreements. In James chapter 1, we have this one. James chapter 1 says this. It says, "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God." Quick to hear, quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. It says, why? Because the anger of God, or the anger of man, it doesn't produce right living, is what essentially that says. It's not going to produce something that honors God. If you speak out of anger, there's going to be a lot of regret to come. There's going to be a lot of hurt to come. If you're just speaking purely out of anger. But he tells us, be slow to speak, be quick to listen. And a lot of times we operate in the other way, right? When something happens, hey, I'm going to tell you my opinion right away. I'm going to let you know what's going on, what I'm feeling. I'm hurting. You hurt me. I'm going to let you know about it. And we speak out of anger. We speak out of hurt. We speak out of jealousy. We speak out of bitterness. And instead of listening to what the other person says, we ignore them and shut them off. And we'd rather speak ourselves and let ourselves be heard. Because we're hurt, we let ourselves be heard and win the argument and be right. We'd rather do that than heal the friendship. And so when you come back to deal with the disagreement, with the conflict, you got to come with grace. You've got to come with humility. You've got to come with saying, I need to hear what they have to say. Yeah, I need to speak and let them know what I'm feeling and kind of my perspective on it, but I need to be able to listen to them. Because I'll tell you, when you listen to somebody, and instead of you just spouting off and you truly listen to them and you're showing that friendship is valuable to you. Even in the midst of a disagreement. You know, if Josh and I were in a fight and we're arguing or whatever, he started talking to me, and I was just like checking the time and checking my phone, and you know, tweeting, and then not even paying attention, and I'm interrupting him. Man, that doesn't show that I value Josh or value his opinion or value our friendship if I'm just cutting them off. So when you come back to the conflict, you need to come and you need to listen to one another. You need to hear what the other one's saying. And you need to share yourself, but you need to share with grace. You need to be slow to speak. You need to speak with grace and humility and compassion. Because chances are, if you're hurt by somebody, chances are they may not know that you hurt them, or they may not realize what they did hurt you. And so you come with grace and you come with compassion and humility and saying that, okay, maybe they didn't know what they did hurt me, or maybe they don't understand exactly why that was offensive to you. And so listen to what they have to say, because more likely they may come back and say, hey, I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize that. Be slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to anger. Because when you do that, when you're slow to anger and you're slow to speak and you're quick to listen, that values friendship. That puts the friendship above your own ego and your own pride. And like we've talked about before, you know, that's what a part of being a friendship grower is. You know, it's not about pride, it's not about ego, it's not about jealousy or bitterness, but it's about honesty, it's about loyalty, it's about compassion. And this grows a friendship. Because, you know, even in the midst of conflict, there can be growth. Even in the midst of hurt, there can be growth in that if it's handled properly. You know, if you ever worked out before, that's conflict right there. You know, you're that weight that you're lifting is in conflict with your muscles, right? But if you do it right, if you lift right, then what's going to happen is that conflict, that tension, that disagreement that's happening right there, it's going to make you stronger, is it not? Now, if it's handled wrong, then you're just going to end up hurt. And it's going to end up a lot worse than what it should have been. But when you handle it right, when you handle the weightlifting right, you have proper technique and fundamentals and all that, then you're going to grow from the conflict, from the tension. The same with your with friendship and with disagreements. If you handle the conflict right, you handle it with humility, you listen to one another, you value one another, you share your thoughts and your feelings with grace and with humility. You share it in a loving way, not speaking out of anger or jealousy or anything like that. When you handle it right, then even that friendship can grow out of conflict. Even that friendship can get stronger out of conflict. So maybe you need to give space, a little bit of space, but then you need to come back to the problem. And you need to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and not speak out of anger, not speak out of pure emotion, because emotions can be deceptive. Most emotions can lead you down the wrong path. They can lead you the wrong way, make you say things, do things that aren't beneficial. So what happens when you handle a friendship or handle a disagreement? You handle a disagreement and everything's all hunky-dory, right? Everything's all good, right? Everything's like, hey man, we're cool now. We all believe the exact same thing. Hey, sometimes you're going to have a disagreement. Sometimes you're going to have a problem. And you're going to talk about it, and you're going to work through it a little bit, but you may not exactly see eye to eye. And this is when friends have to agree to disagree. Sometimes you have to agree to disagree, and you're going to have to leave it at. You get to a place where you're okay, everything's good, but you may have to say, hey, okay, maybe we can't get all the way back, but we can at least agree to disagree that we're in a better place right now, and even more important than just agreeing to disagree, more important than just getting in that space is to be able to forgive one another and offer forgiveness to them. So be able to forgive one another and offer forgiveness. This is what true friendship does. You're right or wrong. It doesn't matter if you're right in the argument. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. It doesn't matter if you offer forgiveness and you give forgiveness in these friendships. This is what true friendship is all about. You know, Peter asked the question in Matthew 18. He says this. Peter comes up to him. He says, Lord, how often will my brother sin against me and I forgive them? So he's asking, hey, you know, okay, my brother's hurt me. How many times am I supposed to forgive them? And he says, as many as 7 times. And Jesus says to him, I do not say to you 7 times, but 77 times, or 70 times 7. In other words, he's talking about a lot of times you forgive him. He's not saying you count out 490 times, like, okay, I've forgiven you like 300 times, and you still got a little bit more to go, but once I get to 490, I'm cutting you off. No, the idea is, hey, you forgive him as much as he needs to be forgiven, or she needs to be forgiven. You offer it as much as you have to. It's unconditional. So I forgive, that doesn't necessarily make it right, but it's moving beyond the hurt. It's moving beyond any sort of tension there, and saying, I care more about this friendship. I care more about this friendship than holding on to bitterness, or holding on to jealousy, or holding on to resentment to be right. I care more about you than I do anything else. And more than just one hurt or two hurts, whatever's happened. I care more about you in this friendship than I do about that. So it says, hey, you offer forgiveness as much as you have to. The forgiveness is not conditional. It is unconditional. And in other words, you forgive as Christ forgave us. Because you know what happened 2,000 years ago? You may have heard this before. The reason Christ was on that cross was not because he wanted to be on the cross. It wasn't like he's like, hey, it's been a great day to die. No, we have sin. We have sin that is offensive to God. We have sin that is hurt, that goes against God. We are in a disagreement with God and with our sin. But instead of God saying, okay, forget them, they're not listening to what I said. They're not listening to what I want, doing the things I want to. They're hurting me. Instead of walking away from that, he said, you know what? We're going to make this right. And even if they don't accept my forgiveness, I'm going to offer it to them. And even if they don't accept me trying to make it right, trying to make this relationship right, I'm still going to offer it to them. And that's exactly what he did. When he sent Christ down on the cross for our sins, that's exactly what he did. Because the only way to make that right was there was a penalty, there was a punishment. And instead of making us take it himself, God offers that to us through his son, Jesus Christ. He says, I want this relationship. I want these people. I love them. And so to make it right, I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure they know of my love for them, to make sure they know that this relationship, that I want this with them. And so I'm going to give my son on the cross for them. They don't deserve it, but I'm going to give that to them because of my love for them. And so God has forgiven us in our disagreement. And I've said we've had a pretty big disagreement with God when it comes to sin, when it comes to how he wants us to live in this relationship. Forgive as Christ forgave us, and how much did he forgive us? He forgave everything. He gave it all up. He didn't say it was a one-time deal. He didn't say, you got this 1 week window. He said, okay, you've messed up too many times. I'm not going to forgive you anymore. I'm not going to offer this to you anymore. No, he continually forgives. And he calls us in our friendships to do the same thing. Forgive. Doesn't matter the hurt. It doesn't necessarily make it right if somebody's wronged you. It doesn't necessarily mean it's right. But it's saying, I care more about you and about this friendship than I care about being right. Conflicts are not the problem. It's how we handle them. My question for you tonight is, how are you handling your conflicts? Imagine being in this room and being in middle school and high school and all that's going on, and you've got some issues right now, right? You've got some conflicts in life with friendship. Not just, you probably got some stuff that maybe at home with brothers or with parents or whatever at school, but I imagine you probably have some disagreements going on with your friends. How's that going for you? How's that going for you? Are you being quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger? Or are you just kind of burying it inside and just kind of holding on to it? Or if you're even talking about it, are you just jumping down their throat about it? How are you handling conflict? Are you forgiving? Are you offering forgiveness? Or if you're the one who's hurt somebody, are you going and offering and say, hey, I'm sorry? Because that's as big a part of it as anything, to say, hey, I've messed up, I've hurt you, I didn't know I hurt you, or I didn't mean to hurt you, but I'm offering, I want you to know that I forgive you, or I want your forgiveness, because I care more about this friendship, and I'm sorry for what I've done if I've hurt you. I care more about this friendship than I care about being right. How are these things going? Why don't you bow your head, close your eyes.